budget review work session. I'll need a call to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Fitch. Here. Stancil.
Here. Hobbs.
Here.
Okay, review of agenda. Any conflict of interests?
No.
Nope. No? Okay. Move into the consent agenda. One thing I wanted to know if the board would consider amending the agenda. I had a request from somebody, if we would consider moving the resolution to change our meeting sessions to the March 11th meeting, which is a regular session, rather than approving it here. I do concur with that request. If the board would consider removing that and moving it to March 31st, our regular meeting, when there's more public available to get that.
311 or 230?
311.
311.
Okay, I would make a motion to amend this agenda to move SPV 022825A to the March 11th meeting, regular meeting. And just, do we want to add just for the two resolutions, public comment, but not the budget here, the budget,
Well,
because they can do budgets.
Well, yeah, we can, let's just work on that right now.
All right, then my motion will stand.
Okay, and just, I know we wanted it so we give the public a month time to get used to it, but most of the meetings that come through are not special meetings, they are regular meetings, so that's why I agree with this member of the public request, so
Okay.
you're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, did you want a second first?
Second.
Okay, all in favor to move the resolution from today's meeting to the March 11th meeting for resolution SPV 022825C. May I have all in favor, please vote aye.
Participants are waiting in the lobby.
Aye.
To admit all
Okay,
participants in the
motion
lobby,
passes.
press
Okay,
star 2.
and
We don't need to change it now.
yeah, so, okay, so we're on to consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right. Moving on, did you have something else, Diane?
No.
Okay, all right.
You don't need it now because it's just setting.
Okay, all right, so now we're into resolutions for board consideration. Let's go ahead and approve the first resolution, setting the public hearing for the property tax notice for the budget fiscal year 2026 on April 1st, Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 at 6 p.m. May I have a motion to approve?
Well, it says on 2/21 April, but it means,
1st of April, 2025? Is that, we're looking at the second one. There's the first one.
no, 21, okay.
Yep.
All right, yeah, so moved.
All right,
Second.
okay. There's actually two. We have that first one for the tax notice, and then we have that second one, which is usually right before we approve the full budget,
Yeah.
before it's filed with the state on April 30th.
So moved.
Okay, should you have a second?
Second.
All right, and first and a second, any discussion on that? All in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. We have a second resolution approving setting a public hearing for the budget fiscal year 2025 for the 21st of April, 2025 at 6 p.m. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye. Motion carries. All right, now we're in our budget review. So, I know you guys have been working very hard on this. So, how does it look?
So we've got everybody's expenses and revenue entered in. Today we got that done, but now it's done working down to the rest of the stuff. So dollars of valuation and tax-related revenue, some of those things. So I don't have base numbers for you yet. There was a handful of things that I wanted to discuss with you guys. So we still need to decide the board clerk position, what we're gonna do with that. I didn't include the $4,000 under IT. I didn't put that on there, right? Because you guys didn't wanna do that. I was just gonna go through the budgets.
The individual departments?
Yep.
Okay,
Well, just things of note.
okay.
So then, the treasurer's office, Were we doing raises there at all? Auditor's office is none.
Right.
Treasurer's
Participants
office.
are waiting in the lobby. To admit all participants in the lobby, press star 2 1.
I don't know what it's doing that.
I thought we fixed it.
You have
Settings are the
chosen to
same.
admit all.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out. So I think all the positions are union? No, they're not union.
Just the universals are union, but their pay is based on the elected, so
Right.
from a theoretical sense, if the elected doesn't get one, neither should they.
Okay,
There was some discussion about the universal deputies potentially needing, a little bit of an increase due to the percentage they're at based on their contract. So those two individuals, we have an email out to
And
just to clarify that.
figure out, it's,
I think it would be a 25-cent
it,
increase to
yeah,
them.
just to make
get
it,
them.
it correct.
to match the union?
Yes, but they would not get anything else unless I was directed otherwise.
Okay, so, I'm not opposed to doing that increase that matches the union.
And
do we
we
wanna
have
wait?
to anyway.
We have to.
We don't have to.
We have to on the
Oh,
union, but
but we got confirmation that we have to?
Well,
We're
that's
still
what we're
waiting for Ann
But
to
I just mean, do you want
respond.
any additional raise for that office?
Okay,
Aside from the potential union increase that you have to do?
You have to do it anyway, cause.
Cause I did the math and I didn't think they were at 70%.
oh,
That's our concern.
Yes,
okay,
so that's where I'm coming from.
okay, all right, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I would defer to they have to match the union, do that, but no other increases.
Okay. I did talk to Kylie for a little bit about her postage stuff. I know that postage line is healthy, but we broke it down, so, she was gonna get you guys an email from Whitney Bowes that just says to get out of that contract, you still have to pay a whole bunch of money. So at the end of the day, I don't think it would be worth it. You
Was
guys-
it a 41-month lease? I know she was gonna check on the lane.
Yeah, I think they were saying you had to pay out all those months in order to get out of the lease.
I think it was a 5-year, wasn't
It was.
It was, yeah, we
Yes.
had it for, yeah, whatever.
it? It doesn't pay the
So I
But
think
she is gonna get that in writing
Yep.
from them.
you guys
Okay.
just have that.
And then we need to find also too, what a lot of times in order to get out of contract, so there's not an automatic renewal, you have to give like a 60 or 90-day notice. So we should probably find out from them what that requirement is, if we can do it now, or we have to literally wait
Yeah.
60 days.
So I'm, jumping a bit on my list.
Please. So that was that, and then theoretically, she pays, so she has her postage machine that she pays
Participants
that,
are waiting in the lobby.
Sorry.
To admit all participants in the lobby, press.
so she pays that rent.
You have chosen to admit all.
And then I looked at a year of her postage, and it was just over, $13,000 for a year. So then you figure the rent, the postage, supplies for the postage machine, and then she also does mail services. They send out those notices in October, and then she has a monthly bill with them. From a theoretical sense, I think probably that mail service needs to be in a different line than her postage machine, so you can see the clear difference, but all of that is bundled into one giant line right now. So when you look at it, and you're like $18,000
That's a
in
lot.
each department, it's because of those things that are separate from the postage machine, but that are still postage services.
I thought I always had to break it out.
Yeah, and I think it should be, so it's easier for you guys to remember, which we can do that, but, I do think that 18,000 in each of those lines, it is justified. And I did sit down and I went through it all with her.
So I think we'll take your counsel and split it out, so for future, we'll know
Okay.
if you're okay with that.
I'll just have to create a new line.
You kind of stopped at raises. You wanted treasurers at 0 except for the union.
We were just going through each one she
She's
wanted.
just gonna do each time.
Yep, I was just gonna go through all of that, if that's okay.
Sure.
I think that was the main thing
That's all I have.
to note with the treasurer's office for expenses. Okay, next I had the attorney's office. I did do the 2.5% increase for,
Participants are waiting in the lobby. To admit all participants
for them.
You have chosen to admit all.
2.5 for Steve across the board.
Yes,
Well, 0 for the attorney.
is that what you want?
That's what I thought we discussed 0% for all elected officials.
So then nobody gets raises up there?
Well-
I didn't have, did you have them down for getting one?
I did, yes, we added that.
I had, oh yeah, we did, there it is.
So, I need to take.
So 2% for everybody else.
2.5.
Yes, so
Or
that's
2.5%.
that's the only office that you're gonna have an elected and then let the people under them get raises?
So he gets
Well,
nothing in his
they're-
step.
Are they all tied to him or just the first deputy?
Just the first, well, there's not a first step.
Yeah, you don't have a first.
No one can go over 85%.
Okay,
My code. And no one will be over 85%.
okay.
So we can break this out and give Steve 0 and the others 2.5.
Yes, but you're not doing that with any other department who
Yeah, I
hasn't
know.
elected, so that's something to consider.
I think we should.
Well, I think just 0 on the line.
And the sheriff asked for 0. Supervisors were 0. The recorder did, and the auditor was 0.
Okay, the other line I have then for, your office is that Thomas Router, yeah, that one. There's an increase on that, so I added that to your line based on the previous bills, but I didn't know if you knew if that could get lowered at all.
We're trying to get it lower, but they charge by the attorney in the office.
Okay,
So we're looking at other alternatives to that.
Yeah. so we're just stuck there until we know
Stuck
more.
there till we know more.
Okay, so that's what I budgeted for that office. If there's a change, you'll have to do that.
Because there's really only 2 companies, there's Westlaw and LexisNexis,
Okay.
and so I'm trying to talk to Lexis and see if they can do a better deal.
Okay, good. If you happen to know that in the next month, then let us know. Okay, all right, that's for that one. Sheriff's office, basically, that's all union, so they're getting their 4% except for their civil clerk, and that's
You haven't-
3%
She got
We have-
3%.
for her.
We
haven't finalized it yet.
You haven't finalized.
but we did put a placeholder in.
We put a placeholder in.
Based on what you told us
Yeah.
yesterday.
Put a placeholder, but we haven't finalized it.
Yeah, and then Jason and first deputy did not get anything. That was the,
Participants are waiting in the lobby. To admit all participants in the lobby,
I did do the vehicle
you have chosen to admit all.
for him, the 42,000 in each of those lines.
For the sheriff.
Yes, correct, yep. So one of those is out of your basic, one of them's out of your rural, and that was what you wanted, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
The one thing that was on he had that one line that was negative $99,000.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out what that was.
So what happened there is we got a check from ICAP for the,
Lightning?
yeah, on the generator thing. So essentially what needs to happen is whenever those claims come in, they need to get paid out of that line that we have that surplus of money in.
Okay,
So then it'll bring it back down to just that regular budgeted amount that's in there. So we need to check with Jason about, I think it was 2 invoices for that.
And my question is, where did it get paid out of though?
Which line?
The negative 99, if it didn't hit that one and you've already got the bills, or are they holding the bills?
We haven't received the bills. We
Okay, so
just
make
put-
sure that you
we
know
got
that.
the check, that's why it's negative,
Yeah.
so once we get the bills, then we'll pull it out of that to
That
bring it back to
Yeah,
0.
100%, yep.
So that's what we're gonna ask Jason is, where's the bill?
Yeah, there should be 2 of them. I can't remember what the 2 companies are, but it's for a generator and some other parts that went with it.
Got it.
Okay. Clerk of Court, we didn't do hardly anything for that one, so not much to note there.
We just left it the same, didn't we?
We did a couple little
Tiny
court-related
things.
services, we increased by 100, and then that juvenile detention and shelter, we took down to 20,000, because I just haven't been receiving any bills for that.
From 32.
For what departments?
No,
Oh, yeah, from 32 to 20.
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
32,000 to 20.
Yep. We haven't actually gotten the bills for that in a long time, but you don't wanna totally deplete that line in case something does come up, because we get to pay. In recorder's office, I took out the raises for that one. And then hers was just little increases throughout.
So you can think recorder 0?
Yes, yep. Economic development is the next one that I have. I kept all of those numbers the same, except the chamber wanted 10 instead of 8. And that is, yes?
Do we wanna do that, increase it from 8 to 10? Or do you wanna stay 8? I would just stay, how about 8? I would just stay 8. We have to figure out places to
That's fine.
cut.
So, I just paid him a bunch on it.
So chamber goes down to 8.
Yep.
Okay. Veteran affairs, I did the 2.5 for he and his temp, or his part-time person. And he increased his grade markers 1,000, and that was the only real thing in his. I'm gonna, secondary roads, we can talk about it, but I really didn't do much aside from what he gave me. I know he's gonna have to refresh those numbers based on that stuff, so.
It kinda is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and he lives on a tight, he knows.
Yeah, well, his comes out of,
His is just a lot of different things.
Yeah.
He's really good.
And he just sends me the numbers to input for that one, so if you have questions on that one.
In general, he knows.
All right, conservation. We did the increase. Steve, you wanted your part-times up 50% or 50 cents?
50 cents.
Okay, yep, so we did that, and then the rest of you was at 2 point, what was the percentage?
2.5, 2.5.
do we want to do just straight 2.5% across, or do we wanna do a 4% increase for the part-timers?
Your part-time are really low, weren't they?
$18.21.
So you want 4% for your part-time and 2 point,
Participants are waiting in the lobby. To
I
admit
was
all
gonna give him a
participants
50
in
cent
the lobby,
raise,
press
so from 18 to 18.50.
oh, so you want 50
You
cents?
have chosen to admit all.
What do you think, Jess?
Let's lay out the options again and summarize.
So, he wanted a 4% increase for his part-time, and do 2.5 for everybody else.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
Well,
Right, is that correct?
so what do we,
Well, he said 50 cents an hour, and then
you guys approved the bottom line, then, I mean, if you, are you trying to get to a
Trying to get
budget?
to it, we're trying to reduce costs, so.
Okay, that's
We're
fine.
trying to figure out if that will reduce the costs, that we're trying to figure out. I know we can't tell you where to put the money.
Right,
in our
just give me the
brains,
bottom
we'll-
line and I will, is that what you're trying to do, is to come into the budget that we had last year?
well, just let, if you want 4% for your part-time, we can plug that in and 2.5 for the rest of you. Is that what we're understanding?
Well, that's what he has in his budget when he did his
Yes.
line by line.
Yes.
And what he's saying is, we can't really tell him what raises to give, we can only tell him what our bottom line is. So I'm trying to figure out, if we were to do the budget,
I'm just,
assuming 2.5% for all the employees, what would be the bottom line that we'd have to tell him to shave off? Cause we can't, if you still want to give the raises, you give whatever raises you want, you just pull the money out of somewhere, some other line. 'Cause we
Right,
can't-
so my question, I guess, to you guys is, do you guys want me to get to the budget that I submitted last year? That's what it sounds like you guys are trying to do.
Well, we're trying to get a lower budget, yeah.
Right,
But right now, what we have is, people are, 2.5% has been the standing thing for everybody, except for electeds and those tied to the electeds.
right, so I understand, if it's something that you're trying to ask me to cut back to what my budget was last year, just tell me that, and then we can make that work.
Okay, so,
I'll plug in the numbers, you guys just have to tell me what you're trying to get to.
okay. So I know you and I talked about the vehicle, holding on to
Right.
that for a year. Or
Right.
till next
And I was a
year.
little bit misunderstanding, because when we had that conversation, you pulled me back into the office. I thought we was at the point in time where
No.
all three board of
No.
supervisors had talked about budgets, and that's what we was.
No,
Okay,
I was just
so-
asking you how painful it would be. So
Right,
when we
right,
talked
right.
about it,
Yeah.
I didn't know you were gonna be here. So when we talked about it, we could decide, he really needs it, or do we need to, are you okay with eliminating it?
Right.
So, you
I-
said you were.
I can, yeah, so if that's something, and if that's what you're asking me to do, is to come in at my budget increase that I proposed was $40,752.
Mhm.
The line item I got for the truck replacement is $40,000. If I take that line item out, that gives me, we're right back to
Okay,
what I proposed before.
okay. So if that's the case, so taking that truck out would still give you the ability to put those raises in there, right?
I can do that, yes.
Okay. What do you guys think?
That sounds reasonable to me.
Okay, so we'll take the truck out.
Take the truck out and then factor in those raises just on our side, so it all shakes out, and make sure your total is.
Just use my numbers
same.
that I plugged in and that I gave you, then you're gonna be good.
Okay, you got it.
Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you.
I can easily plug in numbers, someone needs to, that's easy. All right, environmental health, I did the 2.5 for those individuals. Right?
Yes.
Okay, and there wasn't anything other really on that one.
Now, is Tina, is she still, she's split between the two? Okay.
Yes. Weed budget, I didn't touch because.
He said to leave it stagnant,
Yes,
so
yes.
So
That-
leave it, meaning no 2.5%?
no changes.
Yeah.
And they don't even have anybody hired.
Okay.
I didn't put 2.5 in there, no.
Okay,
I
perfect.
don't think you should, cause I think that's gonna be a negotiable starting
Okay.
wage.
I think it'd be hard to give a position to nobody 2.5 when other people who have
Yeah.
positions filled
Oh,
aren't
yeah.
receiving 2 right now.
Right.
Social services, so we do have to, I increase, there's a salary line in that social services.
Yeah.
Just decrease that to 4,000. It has to
Can
do.
you talk about that? What
Yeah, I looked
exactly
it
it
up.
is?
Wasn't this when we researched the claims that were paid out of this? And this
What
was
would the
the one where
claim
we
be,
received, we
Yep,
received it
I'm just
as.
looking at it. So MATURA, the GA staff is what we pay through that.
That's the contract?
So yes, the MATURA does that general assistance for us, but they haven't billed us very much, but I don't think you can deplete that line either, so I don't know, I just took it down to 4,000.
I think per our contract with them, they bill whenever they're engaged,
Yeah.
that we budgeted a certain amount, no more than this amount of money. I'll have to look at the contract, but I think that's why it's probably lower, is because they haven't been engaged that much.
I took down to 4,000, you
Yeah.
but that's
No,
okay.
I take down to 4.
And then I just did a couple other decreases that, like office supply, I took down to 50, postage and mailing, I took down to 75
For who?
for the
Sure.
social services.
Okay.
Yeah, if they're not using it, just took it down a little bit. The accounting and clerical, I did bump up to match what had been spent thus far, that $4,450. I think that was probably safe. than that is about it. That, on the next page there, that for and general welfare services, you know, that's if someone comes in and needs assistance with stuff.
Participants are waiting in the lobby. To admit all participants in the lobby, press,
Is that where we take
you
out,
have chosen to admit all.
if they can't bear it, does that come out of there?
There's funeral expenses, and a handful of other things, utility payments, rent, that general assistance program, I believe you can only access as an individual once a year. And I know that when we had, the previous CICS person, she kind of had her regular people who would come in yearly and stuff like that, but I think since there's not a physical person in that office anymore, or as often, I know that the one gal comes once a month or something. Right. I think there's some struggle of people knowing exactly where to go for those services, so I think that's why they're not being utilized, but you do have to have some money. So
Can I ask, who administrates this? Where do they come? Is it
Well,
CICS
MATURA.
administrates or
No,
MATURA?
Mature
Out of their office.
Yeah.
Both of these though?
Yeah.
But
Got
then, you have the office across the hall, there were people there yesterday with,
But that's different.
That's different.
so that's the CICS and this is the
Yeah, that's a
mature.
different,
Yeah.
So, okay, so we can,
I mean, I think they're under the same
I think they
umbrella, but I think that we decided we needed, I thought that we needed somebody
CICS
here.
we split them up.
CICS completely got out of that.
Okay.
So, because they were doing it as a service to us and we were paying a portion of their salary of the folks that were there. And then they decided to get out of it when they did their little reorg. So we investigated and asked MATURA if they would do it for us. And that's how we got here. So MATURA actually, they manage the whole thing.
Okay.
So,
So they actually go up here and assure and ask for the assistance.
they ask for assistance, yeah, or they can call and do that as well.
So you left it.
I just made a couple little changes, but yeah, for the most part, it's stayed the same. That medical examiner line, or that whole budget, I kept basically the same, except that initial medical and lab supplies after talking with Brady, we just increased that to 2,000. Libraries, I kept the same.
Do we know, I know we haven't looked at this in a while, but is it 6 3/4 cents per thousand? But I don't know how they calculate that. When I looked at the code, it said in the library district, but I don't know how they determine districts for the libraries.
I can't tell you that one, I don't know how they do that either.
Okay. Cause I know we're over what we're required by code.
But you didn't wanna cut it down.
I mean, we could consider that, but I'm not,
You had
I
two,
hope we don't have to do that.
two that didn't even show up in this one.
But we're required under Iowa code to
Well,
do
I get that.
6 3/4 cents per assessed taxable value, but I don't know how they do that on a per library basis. So, I'm okay leaving it as status quo if the board is, and we can investigate that and discuss it maybe next year.
Well, we already kinda told them to leave it, I'm okay with leaving it.
Okay.
I think people use libraries again.
Okay, next is, ambulance department. So, the EMTs, EMAs, we're doing that $2 bump for them, so 14 to 16 and 16 to 18. He did that because he wanted to try to see if he could get people to stay, / some more people to apply.
Yeah.
And then Brady,
I thought we were bumping them to 18 and 20.
I can double check, I thought it was 16 and 18.
I think he had 14, I think it was what she said.
We were 16 and 18 before, and we were bumping to 18 and 20. Both of them $2, I thought.
I'll double check. And then Brady, I did the,
You just gave us the total, I didn't write down the per hour.
okay,
The total was, $35,040 increase if his part-time wages were increased.
Yeah.
And a $2 per hour increase, but I did not write down the current,
like the breakdown of it.
yeah.
Yeah, that number you gave us is the $2 an hour increase, so we just used what we looked up on payroll,
Okay,
what people were making now,
okay,
and that's what that number is based on.
okay.
Isn't that correct, Emily?
So whatever that is, that's the increase in his budget, we'll account for that.
Yeah, I think it's 18 to 20 and then 16 to 18.
So
Okay.
it's not it's 18 to 20? Oh, yeah.
But he just gave me that 35,000
The
to
total.
increase that line, so I just did that. And then Brady was the 2.5, correct?
Correct.
And then his full-time people are stuck in their union situation, so I just did what he told me for that one. Yep. That PCC billing for him, we just did the 55, because we had to amend his budget this year to account for that, but theoretically, as things get caught up, that 55,000 should be
Okay,
what we would need. I assumed we didn't need the 200,000 in there for an ambulance, right? 'Cause we
No,
don't
he
need
didn't
ambulance,
ask
so.
for
no, you already got
He already got it, yeah,
And
so,
he's,
so that's a good thing to know for you guys, that 200,000 for the ambulance is, well, 209,108 is now no longer in the budget. Now, some of that was offset by some other grants and
Other
stuff,
things,
but,
yes,
but the 200,000
I
is,
think it was,
but we,
we used part of ARPA for that too, didn't we?
yeah.
yes. And then we assumed or did not assume the clawback?
We assumed the clawback.
We left it in,
I think we
Yes, we
better.
took it out of the revenue side and just put it in the expenditure
Yep,
side.
right. Because if it comes back.
So that is ambulance, the county fair, I kept the same.
25.
Yep.
That's what we've always.
Services for the elderly, I kept all of that the same and did the no on the,
we denied the request for additional 10,000.
Right, so we're just gonna stick
Well,
with the 94.
The services for the elderly, this is for the
Oh, I'm
meal
s-
site.
Meal site.
41,
Yeah,
yeah.
41 is where I.
Well, there's chore services of $3,000, which we kept that.
Yeah, basically, they didn't change for that.
We kept her the same and no to the
Yep.
additional.
And you said no to the 10 grand for,
Correct.
Or
Yes,
just
keeping it the
do that.
same at 17,000.
okay, perfect. That home health care, 42. All that's been,
They sent you their updated budget.
yep, so she had a couple, like there's little bits of money in all of this just to finish out that last payroll and stuff like that, but essentially most of that's depleted. And then public health as well, Susan kind of gave me those numbers of what her board approved, and that's just what I inputted for that. I know there were a few more savings.
Yeah, she said they cut 8,000
Yeah.
out, yeah.
So is that accounted for in here or no? The additional thing they cut, the 8,000 they cut?
What it is, I can tell you specifically, yeah, but I just felt, she sent me this, that was approved, and so that's what I did.
So you
Okay.
just put that back as revenue.
It decreased their expenses.
Right.
Yeah, yes,
Yes.
yes. The MATURA, the chore services, I left at the 12,951. Building and grounds, we did no raises there. And that big thing to note was in that repairs and maintenance line, he wanted 75,000, and we decided to keep that in there so he could fix the doors in the annex.
So wait, buildings and grounds, they should have a 2.5, shouldn't they?
He said no.
One.
He didn't ask for one.
You didn't ask for one?
He did not.
Okay.
You want me to put one in?
What do you guys think on that?
2.5, everybody else got it.
Yeah,
I think we should.
I think we should.
third them around.
And then that way, you know, we have to go back around on this again, once we get the fund balances, then,
Without knowing that, we can.
Yeah. so
Put them in.
if we can put those in for him, for his crew, please.
So then that 75,000 we kept because the doors.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Now, he's gonna completely redo them, correct? And put whole new doors
Yep.
that are handy, yes.
Everybody
He
says-
says- And that's supposed to cost 54,000 to do all that. Okay, IT, 2.5 for that, and then
Did she get back to you regarding the server?
she took it out.
She took it out and she put in the cost for increasing
Yes.
the
Storage.
Okay.
Solutions, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that Solutions iSeries based, that budget, we did say 55,000 initially, but I just took it to the 7,000, cause minus the server, and then she needed a little wiggle room for what she was doing.
Correct.
So the 7,000 in there. That reminds me, your guys' board proceedings budget was moved up to $5,000. We had said 450 in here, and then we had talked about recording the meetings yourself and doing that, and all that, so I just made that a $5,000 budget line, so you guys can figure out
Purchase
that
the
and
equipment.
put that out of that line. Does that
That's
sound
what I was
appropriate?
gonna just hang a camera.
I
Okay.
think that's sufficient.
I think
yeah.
that's sufficient. The one thing we did, I don't think we, I apologize for not getting back to you on this. We didn't really finalize, the three of us, how much we wanna put in for the inspector for the courthouse. Did you guys get a chance to look at that quote?
I looked at it, I'm 0.
Okay.
You're cutting everywhere, I'm 0.
Yeah, but this
I'd
is to
rather give
inspect,
the
this is to
recorder.
inspect the courthouse that we just spent $3 million on.
Yeah, that's already been signed off on and done, no, 0.
We are already having problems with our doors.
The doors, yeah, they fixed them, they were there the next day,
Okay,
no, 0.
what do you think? Should we get an inspection?
Yes.
What's the number?
Okay, so what do you wanna put in there?
I don't
It'd be
know.
under the supervisor budget.
It was $400 an hour, that was just the beginning, and then it was
So let's
walkthroughs.
factor,
I'll have to look at that email again. I know. um,
well, do you think we can do it for 10?
No, it's very intense, and they go through everything, and you're gonna pay them to find
Well,
something.
We can cap it and tell him he has this amount and walk through what to prioritize what he looks at too.
Yeah. Hold on.
I think I'll reach out to this gentleman and talk through it and then we can get back to you on that.
Yeah, well, that'd be good, figure out how much, you know, cause when I talked to him 2 years ago, he's like, I won't know until I get in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, minimum rate of engagement is $7.95, includes 4 hours on the site. Additional time billed is $185 an hour. Of course, office staff billing records. If we are sued and he wants to be an expert witness, it's $3.25 an hour. Travel time, let's see, walk and talk, if we wanna join him on the site, it's $425 fee, flat fee, that's not per hour. Let's see.
If we want him to talk to him.
Well, if you don't want it, no, if we don't
You
want
walk
him,
around with
if
them.
you wanna just walk around with him, express concerns, and we do not want him to do an in-depth thing, it's $425.
Okay, that's the alternative, okay.
Yes, that's the
I thought
alternative.
you-
Sorry. He can also do a thermography scan and a microbial analysis as well. For those services depending on spec.
Which may be
So-
beneficial given the exterior changes and ensuring we don't have any leakage.
Yeah, so, if you wanna take that on and get your thoughts on
Yeah,
that.
let me talk to him directly. Is he well versed on the project and what was done?
Well, I haven't talked to him, in a year. I don't think I've had to refresh his memory. But
And he's not historical,
he's,
well,
well, this is construction based,
I
this is
know,
not
I
historical,
know.
it's construction that they need to do, so, but he was referred to me by two different vendors. So,
I'll be doing a little bit later
You wanna
on
check
that. I
out
apologize for not being ready to answer that question.
so I think having another set of eyes on it would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll kind of put that as a pin, maybe an increase. So, okay,
$425 an hour,
it's
so
not
you,
$4.25 an hour, it's $4.25 flat fee, it was $1.85 an hour.
okay, $185 an hour, we spent $250 an hour on the RGM for $7,353, do we have a report on that yet?
Diane, we're on the budget right now. so
I know,
wanna
so we
about
just spent
this.
$7,353 and something we didn't get anything for.
Yeah, okay, so what are your thoughts on this? Do you think we should inspect a $3 million project or not?
No, I think it's signed off on, it's done, I think the public likes it, and I think you need to let sleeping dogs lie.
So our warranty is up in October.
I realize that, and so he'll give you the report in September.
We don't know that.
No, you
You're gonna
don't
find
know.
out, right?
Well, let me
This is
validate
something
it,
that the
Diane.
public has asked us for because of all
What
the
public?
problems.
I've never heard a word from the
Well, then
public.
you must be living under a rock, Diane, because the project took twice as much time.
Do you know, when I was door knocking, do you know how many people, that was their first thing out of their mouth was complaints about that courthouse project and how long it took and how grossly over budget it was? I want validation to protect us that the workmanship is acceptable and we're not gonna have problems after this warranty's up.
Yeah, because we
So
already.
I respectfully disagree with you and I will pursue speaking with the inspector.
Okay. Okay, moving on. So we'll just put a pin in that as a note.
And that'll be under the BOS.
Yes.
And,
It'll be under the BOS.
You want to create a new line, I'm guessing.
yeah,
If
that's
you
gonna say
could.
new line.
So we have zoning after that, we didn't say that, anyway, 2.5 for that.
Yep.
That was the main thing in that one. The 54 local option sales tax, I didn't touch that.
Oh, the loss.
I'm assuming all of that is based off of what is spent in the county, right?
Yes. And did you know when Roth goes out of the county, you don't get that sales tax, or it's dumped against it?
I did not know that.
I learned that. That makes me really mad, because there's 300 trucks a day going out by me and you don't get anything.
Emily, did you find out for the local option sales tax, the principal, the $85,000, is that the dome? Do we
The go bond,
Yeah, the go bond, is that the dome?
I didn't bring those notes, but that sounds right.
It sounds like the right amount.
Yeah,
That's what it was. That was with Aaron.
and I think there's 2 or 3 years left on, because there's 4 projects altogether that we have multiple years left to pay.
I think it should be down to 2,
I feel like this next
I think so.
fiscal year will be down to 2.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay, that chemical line, there's not much in there, and I didn't do anything.
Did we
59.
figure out exactly what that is? I know I asked the sheriff on that, he didn't know. This is we have a budget of Department 59 called Chemical Dependence, and we have diagnostic evaluation, primary treatment, and sheriff transport. All 3 of those together are $1,250.
I'm guessing mental health. It's the only thing I can come up with.
Okay.
I've never paid any claims
No,
out
there's
of
never
that.
been any claims out of it.
But you use that, don't you? You
No,
had a
there's never
bunch
been
on
any-
your,
There's never
We
been
don't-
claims.
we don't pay any, on mental health, we just take care. Like, if we take somebody to the hospital and they get committed, the court, we bill the court and then they pay for it.
Is it
I've
some kind
never-
of a pass-through then, or just, they just pay for it? Do you bill them?
I don't know if it's pure magic or what, but it gets taken care of.
Yeah, there's never any.
And I've never paid a
There's no
bill.
claims
There's no-
on
Can
it.
we take it out?
I never used it, so
This is one I wonder that if there's any Iowa code on. Just because of, just some of these, there's just some rules that we get to follow. So if somebody wants to look into that.
What is it, 1,200?
$12.50,
Oh, leave it.
Department 59.
Yep.
We'll just leave it, add that to our research list.
Townships left the same. The 64, audits, dues, and tax allocations. So I added a new line to the budget for new potential audit expenses we may get to pay this coming year, and I did 100,000 for that.
And we went with the higher 85,000.
Yes, on the other one, yes, we stuck with the 85.
What was the 85?
On 64 category.
Is this a 64?
Yeah,
Yep.
but what was it?
Okay.
Auditing,
For what?
accounting,
Audit.
and clerical.
Okay.
So if you do those two numbers together,
So you have 164,000 total.
I thought we were
No, no.
gonna do a separate line
We did,
item.
we did.
You did?
We did, yes.
Okay.
I'm just
just
saying,
to know,
sorry, in our normal audits, we usually had $45,000 dollars budgeted, but
we've spent 85,000.
of yes, they just told us that the audit that they were working on was a little more, and then we did a separate line of 100,000 for stuff.
Yes, okay.
And then the ISAC dues look the same, so that stays. The risk management department, I did 10% increase for every line except for the ICAP safety grant. And the workman's comp insurance, I did a 25% increase on that one, because that was what we were told, correct?
Yep, that is what paperwork says.
So that is what I did.
And I didn't get that written on mine, but I,
Emergency management, I just entered what was on his budget. I know that he has talked about wanting to increase his levy rate. He doesn't have his own specific levy rate. His levy rate runs through the townships and the cities. It's all just kind of comes in. He could do his own levy rate. I'm not sure exactly what that would entail.
He just has to have a budget, he has to post it, have a budget hearing, and then he has to put it out to all of them.
So he can do that, whatever you guys
Is that a
want.
separate levy on its own line item?
It
Yes,
was, yes.
it's his own, and
Okay.
it's been pretty depleted because we haven't raised it for a lot of years.
Well, most of the townships and all that stuff, because it goes into the fire and emergency 911 levy rates, and so most of the townships have not increased. Now, there will be a slight increase, in I think 3 of the townships, because one of the cities asked them to do 28D agreements, so some of there will be a couple of townships that committed, they approved that, there will be more, but most of that should be going to their fire. So I don't know if it would be cleaner for him to have his own levy at some point, but either way, you're not gonna get that levy stuff.
Well, he does have his own levy,
It's tied in.
tied in, yes.
Yes, it's not a separate.
Right.
Clear.
So in order for him to get his own separate levy though, does that require a ballot measure?
I don't know.
So it's something to consider.
Yeah.
The capital projects, 72. I've left everything the same in there. There is,
Heather, you were gonna check that URA capital.
Yeah, that is the, bridge loan for the, nature center.
Oh.
And it matures in October, and it's dependent on the legal issue resolution with that. So I don't know if there's any more you wanna say about that, Steve, but.
no, it's just taxes, yeah, it's just part of
It's
it.
gonna get paid in.
So we didn't change anything on that one.
kicks back.
Okay, HR, we did 2.5.
for that line. And
And-
then,
Yep, and then the Ayler's, additional $800 every month, so that total for that line is gonna go up $9,600, for a total of $33,600.
Per fiscal year.
Yes.
And that's just, is what it is, cause it's what they're charging.
Well, you can pay them hourly if
And
you
it
want,
was more, I think,
but I think
difference.
that's a bad life choice.
The value. Yes.
sorry.
99 is, non-departmental. The biggest thing I did there is, the American Rescue Plan funds. All I left was the 50,300 for the
Monumental Park, and that's because Chip is confident the other two bills
Will be done
will be
by.
done by June 30th.
Okey-doke.
And I asked him twice,
Okey-doke.
so I hope that
Well,
guys
if
are
he's
comfortable?
incorrect, we'll have to do a budget amendment.
that's what I was thinking. But yeah, so far so good.
What's tricky about that 99 is there's a lot of those that are just in and outs, and so actually what I can edit on that budget isn't very much, as I was learning, so it's just, I'm assuming based off other stuff. So, we didn't do much to that one.
Do you also wanna talk about, the tort liability that we went up?
Oh, the legal services,
To 25,000?
instead of 15.
Mhm.
So,
Which one
And
was that?
that's page 2 of your non-departmental,
of the 99.
99, so court liability went up from what?
15 to 25.
Just because it's increased?
I think we talked about it.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that, cause I have that noted.
So keep that in mind, that you have 25,000 in there for legal services, and HR also has 20,000, a separate $20,000 budget line for legal services as well. That is more, we'll say, miscellaneous.
Special investigation.
Yes, something like that.
In addition to what we would pay on a monthly basis to Ayers.
Okay,
Yeah, cause that 20,000 isn't earmarked for Ayers, it's just earmarked for legal services.
separate ones.
Same as this 25,000 is also just earmarked for.
so, are you guys saying that's a good amount, or are we duplicating?
I'm just saying to remember that
If you need it,
Yes, you-
it's there.
potentially you could need more than that. I think that's, I think the 20,000 in her budget 100% needs to stay. So,
So you just need that pot of money? You need to
I think the
That's what
county
you
needs
guys
that
need.
pot of
Sure.
money.
Got it.
Because the county, there always something happens, someone
Yes.
falls, whatever the situation is, there's always something that comes up. So,
Okay,
that's good.
so, so now the next steps, unless anybody wants to, we have a couple things that we're gonna be checking on, but the next steps would be fund balances, cause that's when we're gonna determine, that's what helps determine what our levy's gonna be.
I do still think you need to go the max, the levy that you did last year, the max, so, and then you can lower it.
keep our levy.
So,
Oh, print it the
And
same.
that's March 5th.
You have to hit
I
the
just mean,
Tuesday
yes, I just
deadline,
mean
right?
printed that.
If printed is that,
So
we
do-
can always lower it. Got
okay,
it.
well,
Yeah.
that question is do we want to do that, or do we want our max to be what it was last year?
That's what
Because,
she said, just leave
Yeah.
it.
The reading of the lobby. And all
Well, I do, the only thing you need to consider, I guess, is how much growth we've had and how that factors into those levy rates, right? Cause growth and the levy rates, that changes the levy rate, right?
Yes.
So I still think whatever the situation is, you need to do the max amount you can.
which increases taxes. So,
If you approve it, but you're just doing the notice.
She's just doing
What?
it,
It's not final.
no,
it's not final.
no, I understand that, but my question, the public's gonna think, when they get the notice, oh, my taxes are gonna go up. And that's why we have a hearing, and then, we can always lower it that, but right out of the gate, we're telling them we're raising taxes. So my question is that Do we wanna do that, or do we wanna be our maximum, what our taxes were last year?
One question.
Yeah.
When you say right out of the gate, the letter we're filing is to an entity, not the public.
No, they get the mailing notices with that.
Is that the deal?
Yeah, they
Okay,
do.
just making
They
sure.
get that,
I didn't know.
so they get all the levies from whatever, hospitals, schools, if they're township, if they're city,
Got it.
has all those levy rates on there. So yes.
So, like, for instance, the tax notice last year, what folks got was, you had the budget year before that, and then the proposed taxes. So last year, for the budget year proposed tax for 2024-2025 was, for the countywide one, this is the general fund, was $6,137,075. So that was, the previous year was $5,894,837. So it shows an increase, okay? So that's what, this is the notice they're gonna get. They're gonna get a notice with the general fund, and they're gonna get a notice with the rural service fund. So, right out of the gate, they're gonna say, oh, our taxes are gonna go up. So, my question is, do we want that to be the first thing our folks see, and then say, oh no, we really don't mean this, we're gonna lower it?
I think if you don't do that, then you're really gonna have to consider cutting people, so I guess you have to put those two swords next to each other and decide, do you want the taxpayers to be scared, or do you want your employees to be scared?
Well, that's one way to look at it, yes.
Okay.
The other way to look at it is, we had lots of people in there last year demanding that their taxes be lowered. And you said that's what you heard when you were door knocking. Please, 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 I can't afford to live in my house anymore.
Over and over.
Over and over and over again. So my concern is, if we go out right out of the gate with this tax notice, the first thing to say is, you lied to me.
Is that a gross number though, or is that number then divided against?
This is the total amount of money that the county takes.
Yes, and I know I'm not gonna pay $6 million, but what if it's divided over more people or more?
I'm just telling you what the taxpayers see, and this is what they're gonna see. So,
There'll be more growth, so
That's my
more
thought, is
taxpayers
it's just
participating.
because the
in it,
number's
yes.
bigger doesn't mean taxes are necessarily gonna go up. Am I getting that wrong?
Right, because you have growth.
That's my point.
but we
More
haven't,
revenue.
but we haven't had that much growth, because the maximum that the state is gonna allow us to increase is $185,000. So that means our growth has not been that great. It has not been that great. So,
So you're gonna print a lower tax levy, so you can say you lowered taxes, but you're gonna cut services. So
Well-
like she said, it's two swords, you're gonna cut services, and I don't think the taxes, they'll feel it.
what do you mean?
For me, the first time we lowered that levy, it was less than $60 a year.
I got people that were thankful for that, Diane. Some of them had $200, $300 a year, and they were grateful.
Okay,
So,
can we
so,
approach this a different route then? Do you need to consider, if you don't wanna do that max, maybe not lowering it to exactly what it was last year, finding the middle ground between the two, so you allow yourself some wiggle room,
Yes.
but you're not also saying, give me that max amount.
We've gotta have a cushion in case.
well, I'm telling you now that there are counties everywhere that are considering cuts, including people, because they do not have any wiggle room, okay? Our wiggle room is smaller than it was last year. So, $185,000 is not a lot extra that we can charge in taxes again. So my thing is that I would rather give the taxpayers some relief and figure out where else we can cut. It doesn't necessarily have to be people. It could be other things too. There's a lot of wants on here.
We did make a good effort in cutting things from the budget just on this
We
first
did,
initial
yes.
swipe, right? You have roughly, what, 240,000 from public health, the ambulance, there's that 200,000 from that.
Vehicle,
He gave up his
Yep,
truck.
conservation gave up their vehicle, a lot of offices are saying, okay, no race, we can do that. So I think that the efforts are being made by a lot of individuals in the county already.
Yes, I agree with that. And we might be okay at no increase. I don't know at this point,
That's what's so
Because we
difficult.
don't
How
have-
do we know without all this?
without the fund balances.
And unless we have that, how do we really know?
Do we know when those are gonna be done?
So I will work on getting the changes that you guys have made. So obviously the things that I need to know about sooner rather than later are the courthouse inspector,
where the
to know
board
what we're doing
goes,
with the board clerk position. I think those are the two
big
main.
needs that, yeah.
Once all the union negotiations are done, throwing all that in there.
Those seem pretty,
Well, we'll probably have, that information soon. We'll probably have to meet again in closed session to discuss that. Do we wanna meet again on Monday for a budget session?
That's up to them if they have a time.
I do not think that that is, time efficient.
Tuesday would be
We have a
better.
special election on Tuesday, which
Okay.
there is gonna require some prep work for, it is my last week, so there's some other stuff that I need to plan for and do. Obviously, I will get as much done as humanly possible with all
Okay.
of this.
So basically, right now, you're looking for direction, cause we wanna get that thing up to the
Yeah.
Department of Management. Okay.
That's to be decided by Tuesday, right?
Well, we need to, we
We
need,
could make it a change after, but
well, cause Terry, you're gonna be finalizing it to the Department of Management. Your goal is on Tuesday, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So we probably should decide this now.
You're not finalizing the budget, just the
No,
levy.
just the levy,
yeah.
just
the levy.
the maximum levy,
Yes.
just the maximum
Yeah.
levy. So, because that's what they need.
Yes,
They don't need the whole entire budget,
no, they just need you to say what you think you're gonna
what our maximum is.
use.
So, I'm inclined to listen to the last 2 years of taxpayers' requests and not increase it,
and hold it last year.
and hold it last year's. And see
I
where.
know that's what I'd like to do, but without knowing where we're at,
Well,
it's
that mean,
hard.
well, it's either that or we increase
Go
it,
with the max.
we do the max, which is $185,000.
Mm.
So, I'm inclined to hold,
I am too.
so,
We're gonna have to make it work.
we're just gonna have to make it work. And if we can reduce it, that'd be great, but I wanna make sure that our maximum doesn't at least increase, they don't get an increase from us
Right.
this year. So, Terry, same as last year, hold, got it. Okay. All right, so, ladies, what's next? What do we need to do next? What do you need from us? Just those two outstanding things?
I think those were the main things that I can think of. I'm sorry, Michelle. can you think
That's
of
okay,
anything?
I got my list too.
Okay.
Well, and so I'll follow up with the inspector and try to get a better feel for what that's gonna look like. And, you know, I think we need to factor something in for reworking spaces if we're gonna pursue, finding alternatives to the public health building.
Yes, and I know Steve's here, no, we have to, the whole
There's a
auction
whole
thing,
process,
there's a whole
yeah.
process, so are you gonna take that on and?
I'm gonna take that on, but just so everybody knows, Steve clarified the order of operations, if we were to consider selling a public building, I'll make sure that Steve's back there now, I'll make sure that we follow that. But for now, I've got a friend in, that's 30 years of experience in space management and reconfigures and such, and I've got some general orders of magnitude per square foot of what it would look like if we wanted to create office space, et cetera. So let me continue working on that and try to get a solid idea of what that would look like. And then I'll report out more.
Okay. And just to clarify, we're holding at the same tax amount, not the levy amount, so whatever the same dollar amount is. Yes. Yeah. Right, is that what you, okay. Alright, so what else do we need to, anything else that we need to consider?
I'm sorry, you're saying you don't wanna bring any more taxes than we did last year?
Correct.
She wants to.
So then there's no, I mean, we don't even have to finish the budget then, right? Cause that's what if you don't finish it, that's what you're stuck to anyway, right?
Right, yeah, we still need to do a budget.
Well, I'm just saying, like, from a theoretical sense though, so you're just saying you don't wanna include that growth at all?
You can't capture that?
Well, that will show as an increase.
I don't know what happens, I mean, cause obviously those taxes still have to be paid, right?
Correct.
Like, you have a new house, this is your first year to pay, but we've said we're stuck at this rate. So I don't know what those tax dollars do then, cause those people still have to pay those,
Oh,
right?
yeah, they'll still pay their taxes,
Sure.
they just won't get an increase. Right?
You're saying the county won't get an increase, cause we're saying these dollars are the same as last year. I thought you guys were gonna go with the same levy rate as last year.
Yes. Because levy rate is not taxes, levy is just the part of a mathematical equation. So, just because the levy goes down doesn't mean taxes are gonna go down, because it's all tied to assessed taxable value. So, if we collect the same amount of taxes as last year, that means we are not raising taxes.
Right.
So that's what I was getting at.
But then you're still not I mean, there is still growth, there is a percentage of growth within the county, and you're just saying, no thank you for that?
We're gonna try to do a budget and spend less money, yes. Take less taxpayer money. Cause just because you have a new house, you move here and you grow, doesn't mean that, you know, that those people don't want high taxes either. Right?
Well, no, I'm not saying they want high taxes, they still have to pay taxes.
Oh, of course, yes.
Right, so
Yes.
you build whatever house, you
Right.
know that next year you have to pay taxes. What I'm saying is we are still gonna get that money that we didn't have before.
Right.
And so I guess I'm struggling to understand why you wouldn't want to, consider that money as growth to the county, since we know that it is due to be paid to the county.
Well, it's additional revenue.
Do we know it's because of that? We just know that it's because of an increased assessed value. So my assessed values goes up, I've been in the same house for 19 years, I pay 3 times as much in property taxes this year than I did when I first moved in. That's growth, yes,
I wonder
it's
if
assessed value.
Jessica's up there, and I wonder if she could give us any idea of what she thinks there is. But I just think I think you could potentially put the county in a really hard spot doing that. Do you wanna see if Jessica's up there and she can come down and give us just a second? Yeah, come on. Run up and grab her.
I think Ryan's getting
Ryan's in the boys' room.
With the statement, living under a rock was really unprofessional. That was a terrible thing to say.
Oh, so you just need to knock it out.
I don't know why that isn't working today. I looked at
Start
the settings
one.
and everything. Well, just as big as after I got COVID, I just, cause I double checked the settings each year. I don't know why.
It's like it has a ghost machine or something.
I'm like, yeah.
It's not as bad as some people are trying to do. It's Jen.
We can still hear you.
Good.
Okay, that's fine.
We're still in our
It's a public-
meeting.
We're still in a public meeting,
We didn't adjourn.
we're waiting on someone to come back here.
Is that okay, Jen?
Oh, Michael.
All right.
Mr. Craig.
So stay right there.
I'm just trying to understand though, if we have things that we expect them to go.
You guys talk about it.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand, if we expect our tax revenues to go up, say, $185,000, then if we factor that in, and say it's that amount, last year plus that amount, then everybody's taxes should still stay the same, right?
Theoretically.
And we do have some.
But is the growth, my question is the growth coming from increased assessed values of existing properties, or is it actually coming from
New.
New construction.
Because if it was coming from new construction, we would have a much larger maximum than $185,000.
What did Ryan say?
He doesn't think we have 3%, but I think Mike, Hackett and I were figuring, he thought we had $400,000.
Like new?
New growth, he would know that.
He doesn't translate.
What does that translate in taxes? That's $400,000.
I don't know what this is, yeah.
So does the Department of Management, so under the maximum levy limit, the revenue growth was 2.78 for the general, and for the rural was 2.35.
2.35?
For revenue.
What was it, general?
The general was 2.7. That's the maximum we're allowed to grow our revenue, not assessed growth. That's just how much we're allowed to grow our revenue under Department of
So
Management.
that's your maximum revenue growth.
Correct. That's those two are the 185,000. Well,
Sorry for the
Just make it your
spontaneous.
microphone.
That's okay, I get some books out.
Turn on the microphone.
So you guys want,
so how much of our, cause we're limited by the Department of Management to a certain percentage for revenue growth.
yes,
So we're trying to figure out how much, and it's like $185,000 increase, it's very small, very, very small. So I'm trying to figure out, the question was, how much of this growth is new construction, and how much is increased in assessed values?
okay. Well, I can give you total assessment, I do not know taxable,
Okay,
that is auditor's office.
okay,
And mine is done by classification,
okay.
and so, obviously, the numbers I can give you, don't know if that's what you're wanting, really,
Okay.
but, I mean, I
guess
can
what
give them to you.
We're trying to figure out is that increase due to new construction, in which case it's new revenue to the county? Or is that increase due to increased assessed values? So if we take that extra 185,000, will that translate to a tax increase for our residents, for most of our residents? So that's what we're trying to figure out. Is that something you could?
I don't know if what I will tell you is going to be that, because, so we give the total assessment to the state, that's how they determine what the rollback's gonna be. That's how they come up with your taxable value that you actually levy against. You do get new construction separated out from that. So I can give you new construction total, but I don't know what that new construction is in taxable value.
Okay.
I mean, you can do the rollback on each classification to kind of get a ballpark, but,
Well, give us new construction.
there might be a report, I don't know if you guys have a report that breaks it down by
There's
your
a-
construction.
I think there's a report, cause I think we got it last year, I don't remember.
We always break it down, so we've always had to give them the breakdown of how we recon it, new construction versus reval,
Right,
to meet the equalization,
right.
guidelines. It's new with this new construction growth, being able to levy against with your new limitation. So that's handled, it was handled this year on the auditor side. I know they're still working through it. You got the messages from Solutions. So I don't know what that report looks like and how it's broken down and how taxing entities were given that total.
So at this point, you don't know?
I don't know if you know.
Okay.
Like I said, I can give you the total new construction from each classification. You could do the rollback math and kind of ballpark, I think we have this much more taxable value, if that helps.
What's
Start
been
there.
the
Start
taxable
there,
value
yeah.
increase? Can you say from the last, like, can you give me like 3 years of a rough
I mean,
estimate?
I have the 23
Yeah,
abstract right
increase.
here,
Okay.
and the 24, so I had the calculator, I didn't bring it with
I have
me,
one. Yeah, there you go.
but I can tell you, so 2024 is a non-mass appraisal year, or it was. So we do have some reval in there, but most of it's gonna be new construction
Okay.
for 2024.
Okay.
So,
That could be why our increase last year was so high, is because of that, and this year it's so low. 'cause we
right,
don't
so
have-
every other year you have your mass reappraisal where you're
Okay.
doing your reval based off whatever percentage you're off.
Okay.
And I think that's what you guys are capped on using, correct? Yeah. Let me see, 2023. Well, how about I just start off by giving you the 2024 total? Because I don't know if it's gonna matter the difference between what we did in new construction in 2023 and 2024.
So this is 2024.
I mean, that would just give you like, how many new houses we had, but it's not gonna give you what you can levy against for 2024.
Okay, cause we're in arrears, right?
Well, yeah, but just knowing that difference, that's just gonna show you kind of a trend. It's not gonna give you the number,
Right,
right?
23 doesn't really matter.
Right.
Yeah.
So, 2024,
This is new construction.
new construction that was reported to the Department of Revenue for ag structures. So we're an ag land, but they do get the residential, if it's dwelling, residential rollback, which is like 47% right now. We had $809,700. Nothing in city limits in ag. Residential, so that was like outbuildings, sorry. That was ag buildings,
These are ag structures.
ag structures, yes. So the next, page is ag homes.
So ag
Ag
residential.
structures are gonna get the ag rollback, so I misspoke. Ag dwellings are gonna get residential rollback. So that first number I gave you would get the point, I think we're at 71% for ag. Don't quote me exact, it's a longer number than that. So residential dwellings on ag real estate, new construction, we had 12,228,800. It was 30 dwellings,
So ag residential.
yes.
And that's the 0.49.
Now, it's like 47%, so you take it times by 0.47. It's longer than that, I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
But then, for regular residential, let's just go back to sheet real quick. Regular,
Is this not on non-ag land?
yeah, so this would be rural res.
Okay.
We had 13,196,800. That was 20 new dwellings. Residential in city limits, we had $6,311,480, equal to 13 new dwellings.
And
And
all
20
residentials are treated the same with 0.47-ish.
Yes, yep.
So last year, we were allowed slightly under 400,000, under the HF 718 to increase our taxes. And this year, we were allowed only 185 and change increase in our taxes, so we're slowing.
Is that your 2% cap on your reval?
I don't know, according to the Department of Management, the maximum allowable growth, maximum revenue growth for the general is 2.78 and for the rural is 2.35.
Okay.
So, so we're slowing. So the increase this year is significantly less. So I'm wondering if the previous year we had more new construction. Did we have more new construction in 2023?
I mean, I don't think it slowed that much. I mean, 2023 would have had a ton of reval, because it was a reval year.
Right.
But let me just see if I can find, here it is. So 2023,
So when you do a reval, it makes it appear like you've had.
It increases the valuation of your home.
it
Yes,
increases the total valuation for your county to get to whatever ratio you're off. But you're not, now with the new cap, you're not necessarily given access to all that money. So if we did 30% increase in assessment, it doesn't mean that your taxable value is gonna be 30%, because it's gonna get rolled back, which the assessment limitation rolls you back to, it limits like a 3% growth statewide. So even in a year that your value didn't change at all, your taxable value could go up 3%, or more or less at state average. So I don't know from your standpoint, say your taxable value goes up 3%, so that's without assessments changing, you just jumped up 3%. I don't know if your 2% includes that 3%, or I don't know what it looks like on your side,
Okay,
so.
thank you
Yeah.
for that information, I appreciate that, thanks for coming down.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps us at all, but it gives us some numbers to work with, so thank you.
And we have, I didn't get to commercial either, there's new construction
How
in
much is
commercial too.
commercial?
Not as much. Let's see, out in the country, for rural commercial, we had 514,900. And in city limits, we had 4,909,560.
Say that again, 495.
4,909,560. So, and we have industrial too, but there's nothing in there. So, like I said, I don't know, this all gets converted to your taxable value or what you're levying against, and I don't know how that's manipulated on your side for
There's a lot
taxing,
more
yeah.
comp calculations involved in
Yeah.
that.
But you could probably look at, like the Department of Management will show you what your taxable value is, you could look from one year to the next.
Yep.
To see that growth.
Can I ask you a question then?
Yeah.
So we're held with the same tax dollars as last year, right? And there's inevitably some growth, right?
Yes.
What happens to those funds? Do you know? Like if Bill builds a house and we just now start to collecting taxes from Bill, but we're saying these are the tax dollars that we've said we can only take in, then what happens to those funds? Because they have to pay those, right?
Yeah, every house would still get taxed,
Yeah.
every property,
It just wouldn't be as high as it.
your
could.
levy rate would go down. Because you have more money, but you're not asking for more, so then that's less you need per person.
Okay, so that's would be the result of that, okay. Do you have an input on if it's more beneficial to, say, put that additional tax revenue into your total amount that you're gonna bring in? Or would it be more beneficial to say, here's that levy rate that we're keeping or changing?
I would try to, I don't know, maybe try to run the number for the levy rate, if you check the 189, whatever you guys are
Oh,
working
we
with.
have it, we have it.
So, cause even with that, maybe your levy rate doesn't have to change and it could still go down.
Go down still?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know.
No, it'll probably go down a little bit, but again, a lower levy doesn't necessarily translate to lower taxes. So what do you guys think? Should we make that our maximum? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica. Yep, you're welcome.
The taxpayers are asking for cuts, they're asking for relief, and they've been doing that for 2 years, and they've not gotten relief in 2 years. So, I would like to give them some relief. We told them we were gonna give them some relief. This is technically, may not be relief if we're collecting the same amount of money as last year. It just is status quo, it holds. And if we happen to find more and lower it between now and the end of April, I think we should still do that. But they've been asking for this. So I would like to give it to them and figure out how we can give it to them as a county and give them some relief.
I'd like to look too. I really don't like making decisions without all the information, but, you know, that's what I'm committed to doing.
I realize I'm not a voting member, but I strongly disagree with that thought
I do
process,
too.
as I've seen the cuts that all these departments are trying really hard to make. I think that you're setting the county up for some pretty big and hard choices that are gonna affect residents and taxpayers as well. But I'm not a voting member, so.
And I like, and I'm open to split the difference too, because we don't, you know, if we hold it, then we will have additional revenue because of road.
Well, no, we won't have additional revenue, because that means that when we hold it, that means that's the max amount of taxes we can collect. So whatever that works out to be in the levy, so that's the amount of taxes we can collect. So if it's
No matter how many contributors there are.
right, it'd just be their levy would go down. So if we hold it at the $6,137,075 for the general services, then those people with that part of the levy that's all we're gonna collect, however we get that. So if my valuation goes up, it doesn't matter, because the same amount of money is gonna be taken out of my taxes as last year. Even if my assessed value goes up, the levy's gonna go down to offset that, so I'm not spending any more in taxes this year than last year.
But we can, even if we set some number in between max levy and last year, we can still bring that down.
We can still lower it, you're right, but, this is the first thing that's gonna go.
We would have to educate the public of what this means.
So the question, devil's advocate here, the question is, and the public's like, well, why would you put it up there if you intend to lower our taxes?
They would have the chance to advocate for that though, right, during their meeting,
Sure, if they're
Right.
public
Hearings.
Yeah, the
which is
public
what that's
hearings.
for.
Well,
So if
and-
you do set that number at whatever, you wanna say you wanna increase it by 0.5 or whatever you wanna do, then yes, explain to the
Then we have a
taxpayer.
win, when we hopefully can come in below that and bring it down once we actually have all the data.
I agree with you.
I'm just very leery without having all this data to know. I know what I committed to do and I know what I want to do, but I gotta see the data.
So let's put it this way, if we do this, we put it out there, then the things come back and says, well, you know what? We're gonna have to do X, Y, Z in order to lower it, are you going to do that?
She ran
So-
on it.
I understand that, but if this is what she ran on, then we shouldn't be raising this at all. At all. Because we promised the taxpayers we wouldn't do that.
To me, it's put a little bit of wiggle room in there and hopefully we can come in under it and once we have all of our data and we know we can still.
Wiggle room to raise taxes. Because if we,
To lower.
no, because what if we can't? Because if we keep it at the same and we don't increase taxes, then we're forced to do what we need to do so we don't raise taxes. If we give wiggle room, then the argument's gonna be like, well, you have wiggle room, so why are you cutting my, I don't know, whatever, we take something out. Why are you giving me less of a pay increase? Because we have this wiggle room for taxes. So that's my thing, is that, do we wanna stand on what we said we were gonna do or not?
I'll stand on what I said I was gonna do when I have all the data. I want some wiggle room. I'm not asking for all that Diane was asking for. I'm not asking, I wanna meet somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
But I wanna nail this down when we have our data and hopefully we can bring it down and be on the low end of that. It still provides
And
some
what if we
savings.
can't?
Then we can't.
Stop
Then we
bullying
have-
people.
Excuse me, you're out of
I
order.
understand,
You're
but
out of
we're all
order.
frustrated.
You're out of order.
You're
Ma'am,
bullying
You're out
people.
of order.
She's
I know
not
that.
bullying me. We're having a dialogue here and I am perfectly okay to speak for myself. Thank you very much.
You're out of order.
I understand that.
So, back to the conversation. So my question is that, you have not lived through budget meetings. Okay?
Exactly.
So I have, where you've had angry members of the public here saying, you said you were gonna do this, and you lied. Okay? They're very upset.
I've
So
never made a promise.
Excuse me?
I said I've never made a promise. I
You made a
never
promise about
promised.
the turbines and you broke it.
I did not, we didn't go to
Wow.
court.
So, anyway,
Unprofessional.
you're out of order.
I'm leaving.
Okay,
That's
good.
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 Please stop.
So anyway, so here's the thing is I wanna make sure that we're not giving the appearance of breaking our promise to the public. That's my concern.
Well, if the public is reasonable and rational and understands these budget constraints we've been under and we're behind the gun, we're behind the 8 ball by how many months now
Mhm.
to do this, I don't anticipate being able to make all this, find all the savings that we want to find in this compressed timetable. And to me, I would be happy if we could stay where we're at, and
Right,
continue
that's all I'm
to work.
asking for, is to stay where we're at and not
Right.
increase it at all. That's all I'm asking for,
Right.
is to figure out a way
But
to do
staying where we're
something.
at, there's also going to be a slight increase because of increased revenue, right? We could do that and still,
Well, the increased revenue, we're not sure where it's coming from. Is it coming from increased assessed values, or is it coming from?
that's why I wanna get that vetted and figured out, so we know. I don't like feeling pushed and rushed to make a decision like this when we don't have all this data. If we can figure that out, Can we
This is
figure
what,
that out?
this is what the public is gonna see.
Permit all participants to lobby press star 2.
If you guys would like to schedule a meeting on Monday
You have
afternoon,
to,
I can try to do my best to hammer some of this out a little bit more,
Okay.
so you can have an idea. I cannot promise you I will have final numbers, because there are obviously steps to this that I
But they'll be
have
part
not.
of, we'll be better, we'll be closer.
I
Will
can
this
put in
give
the
her
changes.
time to post?
I'm sorry, I forgot, Michelle,
Yes, Michelle.
would that give you time to do a budget?
We can post, it's 24 hours, right? It's not 24 business
I'm
hours.
just checking.
I'll just do it on Sunday. When do you guys wanna do it? When do you wanna do the meeting? And I'm happy, I'm not
Just-
exasperated about that, I'm just,
what works for you on Monday?
What works for you guys?
later would be better.
yeah, to me, the later the
Sorry
better.
about that, but.
I have a meeting at 5, and I have a meeting at 7, but anything before 5, I can come down there, so.
We wanna say 3:30, so we have a little cushion between your meeting that starts at 5. I have a meeting that starts at 5.
How about 3?
3 o'clock.
Jerry,
Sit there and let him use it.
Terry, Emily, I know that's the
Do
day
you wanna
before the
look on it?
election, how would that work with you?
Yep, so we obviously can't do it around 4:30, because we have to get the computers ready to get sent off, stuff like that.
Yeah.
How about
And
two?
that is fine with me, that is up to you, Terry.
Two's okay, or what do you guys want? Two?
At this point, it doesn't matter.
Okay, we'll do 2.
So can we at least have an idea of, at least these big ticket items, you know, what we know we're gonna have?
What do you?
Well, how about this, can you guys just give me any idea on, so, the board clerk
The
position
board clerk needs to be
and
dealt with.
the courthouse.
Well, that's a discussion with 2.
I don't
And the
know.
courthouse thing, you're gonna figure that out, right? Unless we wanna just do a blanket number.
And you guys are not doing the $4,000 audit on the website,
No,
right?
we're not.
Yeah, I already took, I didn't even put that in.
Okay, thank you, I just wasn't clear.
And I'll try to have just a rough order of magnitude, remember by Monday for
Okay,
facility stuff.
Okay, all right, well, I think
And
we,
then, so, I guess, when should we expect the board clerk decision?
that would be a decision that she'll probably discuss with Emily
Okay,
on how she wants to handle that.
okay, so those two things, alright, so then I will work with what I can and try to get that
Okay,
filtered through, and we'll see how Monday looks. And see if I can give you guys any.
Sorry,
you got me.
So
more
did
concrete
we
number.
decide on 2 p.m. and is that, I mean,
2
that's.
p.m.
Okay.
on Monday.
Okay.
And it will be a work session or a special session with decisions?
Well, it'll be a work session, there's no
Okay.
decisions, we just.
So
give
we don't need a
direction.
decision on how, what letter to
It is a
file?
decision on whether you wanna do tax dollars.
You're
or
gonna
not,
have,
right?
it
Yeah.
needs
Do
to
we
be
have
a
to do a
special.
resolution for that?
I don't
No.
think you have to do a
Well, you
resolution, but
should
you're
not
in
in
agreement
agreement,
to
though.
decide what you want to do.
We've been in disagreement before and,
We don't need a resolution, we're just giving her the numbers.
we're just giving her
correct?
the numbers.
Okay, very good, I just so it's a work session.
Okay, all right, I
Gotcha.
think we, anybody else, otherwise I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Where is that?
Do we have a
Oh,
second?
Sorry, Michelle.
So it's 2 p.m. on Monday. That's what we're planning on.
2:37 p.m. I mean, adjourning.
Adjourning, do you have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor to adjourn, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye.